What's the strangest fact you know that most people don't? If you are exposed to roaches for a long enough time, you will become allergic to them. This also means you become allergic to pre-ground coffee. Some medications can cause hair to turn strange colors when bleached. My wife recently got her hair dyed and the first step was bleaching. Because of her medication, it went from medium brown to a light pink. Like an anime character sort of pink. You could even see a line corresponding to a time when her meds were lowered then raised again. Bears don't actually hibernate, they torpor. While they do lower their heart rate and respiration, they are not in the same sort of chemical sleep true hibernators undergo. Animals who torpor are able to wake if threatened, while an animal in hibernation is truly helpless until it wakes up. That there are billions of pounds of cheese owned by the American government stored in a cave in Missouri. A test pilot for America's first jet wore a gorilla mask when flying, so if other pilots saw it, they would be written off as seeing things. When scorpions mate, they do a dance. The male then ejaculates on the ground, grabs the female with his pincers and drags her through it, making sure it contacts her sex organ. Virginia opossums do not eat ticks and they do not hang by their tails. If you ever see one hanging by their tail, help them down. Humans set them up like that and they'll hang until they're exhausted and fall on their heads. They can't pull themselves back up to the branch from that position and it's cruel. If you say manager when calling any Apple store, you'll get to the store directly and not a random call center. Charles Osborne, USA. 1894-1991 was the victim of the longest attack of hiccups, which lasted 68 years. Fluoroquinolone antibiotics such as Cipro can cause a rare reaction that causes people to rupture their Achilles tendon just from walking around. A funeral home is not required to dispose of a loved one. Anybody can do it, so long as they fill out and file the paperwork, obtain the permits, and follow the same laws as a funeral home. George Washington didn't know what dinosaurs were. That having a spouse die shortly after their partner goes, is very, very common. Eldercare. Oxford University started 332 years before the Aztec Empire began. Leap year occurs whenever the year is divisible by 4. But this is just a little too frequent, so a correction is needed. So whenever the year is divisible by 100, there is no leap year. However, this is too much of a correction. So when the year is also divisible by 400, there is leap year. Bedbugs reproduce using a sexual method called traumatic penetration. The male bedbug stabs the female bedbug with his penis randomly about her exoskeleton. Sometimes multiple males will penetrate the same female at the same time, which leads to the very common scenario of female bedbugs literally being fucked to death. Bill Murray played Peter Venkman in Ghostbusters. Lorenzo Music voiced Peter Venkman on The Real Ghostbusters. Lorenzo Music voiced Garfield on Garfield and Friends. Bill Murray voiced Garfield in the Garfield movies. Giraffes sleep for 20 minutes a day. The largest tire manufacturer in the world is Lego. Next time you're watching a car ad video, look at the license plate. If it consists only of symmetrical characters and numbers like HMIA8 or TXW8Y, this is likely a deliberate choice so that the video can be flipped, mirrored and aired in both right side and left side driving markets. Chlamydia was only known to be found in llamas before the Spanish invaded the Americas. Conclusion? Some conquistador got freaky with a llama. There is a form of autoimmune encephalitis caused by tumors called ovarian teratomas. Teratomas can grow in hair, teeth, and even little nervous systems that then trigger the autoimmune brain inflammation. This type of brain inflammation can lead to crazy literally symptoms, mood swings, hallucinations, speaking in tongues. Teratomas are most common in young women and are thought to be the root cause of many stories involving demonic possession, witches, etc. It's 100% likely that some young woman was burned at the stake or drowned because she had a tumor, and the people around her thought she was a witch. Blood can freeze and then break and slice open your veins and thaw, and you can internally bleed to death. Vaginal lubrication is blood plasma. Armadillos can carry leprosy. That in the wildest butterfly effect, the French government dissing the inventor of tinned food led to the creation of napalm. For the original Sleeping Beauty, they used recordings of a flamethrower to get the sounds for Maleficent's dragon-form fire breath. The skeletons in Poltergeist were real, but they were not just taken from a graveyard. They were medical cadavers borrowed from a university. Renting them for the film was cheaper than using fake skeletons. Canada has land borders with two different countries. One with the USA mostly along the 49th parallel, also the longest land border in the world. 2a 1.3 kilometers border with Denmark on a tiny island called Hans Island. Number 2 is the strange fun fact. To make it more fun, this second land border was brought about through the Whiskey War, which was a conflict with no violence and no direct contact. Ohio is the only state in the USA that doesn't share a letter with the word mackerel. The only English words that contain the word meow are meow, meows, meowed, meowing, and homeowner. The blast of air you feel when you enter a store is to keep the insects away from entering the store. It is called an air curtain, which acts as a barrier and doesn't let the cold air inside the store flow outside. The solar system is much larger than most believe. Rather than the sun's gravitational influence on celestial bodies reaching only as far as Pluto, it reaches hundreds of times farther, creating what's called the Oort cloud. To put it into perspective, it takes sunlight a little over 8 minutes to reach Earth, while it takes over 1.5 years to reach the edge of the Oort cloud. The nearest star to ours, Alpha Centauri, is a little over 4 light-years away, meaning our solar system actually covers over a third of the distance toward the nearest star system. I like space. The Dancing Plague of 1518 in what is now modern-day France. There was a mysterious outbreak where hundreds of people danced uncontrollably and seemingly involuntarily for days on end. This event started with a woman named Frau Trophia and rapidly spread to others. By its peak, as many as 400 people were dancing. Some of them reportedly danced themselves to death from heart attacks, strokes, or sheer exhaustion. To this day, the exact cause of this phenomenon remains unknown, though modern theories suggest it might have been due to ergot fungi poisoning similar to LSD or mass psychogenic illness, a collective form of hysteria. The first person and the last person to die during the construction of the Hoover Dam were father and son, and they died 5 years to the day apart. Human skin has no receptors for water. Large CO2 emissions from cows are from their burps, not farts. Nature evolved dogs to become your pets. Thus, oxytocin and vasopressin facilitate bonding between parent and child, and between couples. Now for something truly charming that evolution has cooked up recently. Sometime in the last 50,000 years, i.e., less than 0.1% of the time that oxytocin has existed, the brains of humans and domesticated wolves evolved a new response to oxytocin when a dog and its owner, but not a stranger, interact. They secrete oxytocin. Robert M. Sapolsky, behave the biology of humans at our best and worst.